welcome to another bookish video. Today I'm going to be doing the book recommendations book tag, which was created by Steph Bora, aka my all-time favorite booktuber. So of course I had to film this tag video. So there's 15 bookish related book recommendations questions that I'm going to be answering. I'll have all the questions linked in the description as well if you guys want to answer them in the comments or film this tag video yourself. And I'll of course leave Steph's original video linked down below as well. I love Steph. She is literally my favorite booktuber ever. So I'm super excited to be sitting here and talking books with you guys as always. So let's get into it. So the first question is a book you tell people is your favorite. So I have two in mind for this one. The number one is very obvious. It is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, because every chance I get, I will probably bring this book up because I love it so much. It was my favorite book of 2022 and I still think about it all the time. It made me fall in love with Alaska, even though I've never been there before, but it's definitely on my bucket list after I read this. I also loved Kala and Jonah, their love story, The Slow Burn. I just loved it so much. If anyone ever asks me, what's your favorite book or what's your favorite romance book specifically, it is always this book. And I also chose X's and O's by Amy Lee because this is a recent new favorite. I read this one last month, absolutely adored it. I talk about it all the time as well, so I would probably choose this one too. This one is also another rom-com. This one is a roommates, friends to lovers, and the main female character is a book influencer and the guy is a hot firefighter, and it's just so fun and relatable, and I loved it. The second question is a book that is your guilty pleasure. I really struggled with this question because I don't really know if I have any books that are like guilty pleasure books. Some of you guys may know, or some of you guys probably don't. I love true crime, so I love me a good mystery or crime thriller book every now and then. So I thought for this question I would choose None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marnie. This is a young adult crime thriller. It follows two teenagers who are hired by the FBI to interview these juvenile delinquents, and then they actually end up getting wrapped up in this active case of this serial killer who is killing all these teenagers, and they've got to find out who this killer is before they get killed. It is so fast paced, it's so interesting, and it's probably one of the only crime thrillers that like had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. So that is probably a guilty pleasure. I don't know if that book really matches this question, but I'm gonna say it is. A book everyone loved but you didn't. I think I have so many books to talk about for this one, but I'm gonna narrow it down to two again. First one would definitely be Beach Read by Emily Henry. I have not really heard many negative reviews about this book, but I found it so hard to follow along. I was really bored and it was just too slow for me. And then the second book I would say for this would be Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, because this book was such a disappointing book talk book. I was expecting this to be something that I really love because it's got tropes that I love. It's childhood friends to lovers. It's kind of got like people we meet on vacation vibes, but I just hated the plot twist and I was like, book talk really let me down with this one. So I go with this for the second book. For a book that you read the fastest, I picked out The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West because I demolished this book in one sitting. Like it took me less than 24 hours. It probably took me like 3 to 4 hours to binge read this book, and I did not want to put it down because it was so fast paced, so cute and wholesome and fun. This one is a young adult romance. We follow Gia, who is a high school student. She gets dumped on prom night, but she needs a boyfriend to show up to prom because otherwise her friends aren't going to believe her. So she meets this guy at the car park and he kind of ends up being her fill-in boyfriend for this prom date, and then ends up actually being a proper fill-in boyfriend. So it does have the fake dating trope. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series, which is probably why I like this book so much. But yeah, I read this one in one sitting. A book that deserves more hype. This one is a really easy one for me. I've got to mention The Truth About Love by Maisie Myers. I love this book and not many people talk about this one because Maisie Myers is a hidden gem, but this is a second chance, right person, wrong time romance book. You literally follow these characters from the very first time that they met and were childhood sweethearts or high school sweethearts all the way to when they're like adults, and it's like constantly right person, wrong time. This book has incredible quotes, so much depth to these characters. It has amazing mental health representation, and I loved that. I think more people need to read this book because I don't really hear many people talk about it, and more people need to talk about it, and more people need to read it because it's amazing. Plus, there are just some beautiful illustrations in this book, like for each chapter. Like, it's literally stunning. If you want an underrated book, you should read this because it is freaking fantastic. A book that is becoming a movie or a TV show. There's actually quite a few, but I'm going to mention one that's coming out in March, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six. I am so excited for the adaptation. I think it's going to be on Amazon Prime, and I think it's going to be great because we've already got like sneak peeks of some music in there, and that sounds amazing, and the casting is so good. Sam Claflin is in it, so you best believe I'm going to be watching it because I love all of the movies that he's been in except for Mockingjay. So I think he's going to do such a good job at being in the adaptation for Daisy Jones and the Six. And Daisy Jones and the Six was actually one of my favorite books from last year as well. It was so good. It's also like fully set out in dialogue as well, and I listened to it as an audiobook and it was amazing. I think the adaptation of this is going to be done so well, so I'm really excited. I also know The Hating Game, which was the first ever rom-com that I read in like a very long time, was also turned into a movie. I haven't watched that one yet, but I really need to because I remember loving The Hating Game book. So that's already out, but I just haven't watched it yet. A book that you have reread the most. This one is definitely no-brainer. It is the entire Harry Potter series because I have reread that series ever since I was a little kid because I have always been a huge Potterhead. I rarely ever reread books because I have a huge physical TBR, but whenever I do reread it, it will be the Harry Potter series. Every single year there's at least one book that I read because I love it so much. I love the universe. I love it. A book from a genre you don't typically read. For this one, I ended up going with I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy because I rarely ever read nonfiction. I don't really read memoirs or autobiographies or anything, but this is the only one that I have read in the past couple of years since I was in uni and was forced to read textbooks. But I really enjoyed this book. It is very, very heartbreaking, and there's a lot of heavy topics mentioned in this book, but also like it is so good. A book that deserves all the hype it gets. Easy one, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book is so hyped up on BookTok, BookTube, Bookstagram, literally everywhere, but for good reason because this book is pure magic. While I was reading this book, I was like, how are these characters not real? Because I feel like Evelyn Hugo is actually a real life actress in this world. Like, these characters feel so real. These celebrities, like, I want to be Googling them because they just feel so real, and the storyline is so good. I'm not really one to read much historical fiction, but if Taylor Jenkins Reid writes it, I will 100% read it because this book was amazing. I loved it so much. I actually have a reading vlog for this one as well if you want to go check it out, but this book definitely deserves all the hype it gets. I'm so happy that it's so hyped up because I feel like everyone should read this book at least once in their lifetime because it is so good. I also have another book for this question, which is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I mean, how could I not bring this book up? It is such a beautiful and more realistic love story. These characters grow a lot individually and also come together. Its opposites attract. It also tackles like more heavier topics as well, but it also has like a great sense of humor embedded into this story, and the banter is so good. It also has a reverse age gap, and I really enjoyed this book. I am so happy that this one is also really hyped up as well, and also there is a small town setting in this one, so definitely these two books deserve all the hype. If you haven't already read them and you've seen them on BookTok, BookTube, Bookstagram, highly recommend picking them up. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. For this question, I picked out A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson because it truly is one of the books that I gravitate towards whenever anyone asks me what book should I read, because this is a young adult mystery and it also has a romance subplot. So I feel like regardless of what genre you're into, you'll probably really enjoy this one. It's so fast paced, it's so interesting. It has some really amazing plot twists, and it has a good plot, but also great characters as well embedded into it. So It's just really good. It's one of my 5 stars, one of my favorites from 2022 as well. Every person that I have recommended this book so far has told me they've loved it and have continued on with the trilogy, so take what you will with that, but definitely this book would be that. Oh, and also Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because everyone should read that book. A book that has your favorite characters. There's definitely quite a few, but I narrowed it down to 3. So first of all, we've got The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Hannah and Garrett. Love them both so much. Hannah is such a major, sassy, fun, but like sweet character. And she's also really relatable. Like I could relate so much to her, which is why I really loved her character in this book. But also Garrett Graham, excuse me, one of my favorite book boyfriends ever. Like he was so sweet, so kind, like so thoughtful, wholesome. Like we literally love him. He was like top tier book boyfriend. Honestly, set the bar quite high when it comes to book boyfriends. So both Hannah and Garrett, I love them so much. I also have Bethany from Tools of Engagement. I picked her because I loved how this book portrayed her anxiety, and also she's such a perfectionist as well, and her perfectionism I could kind of relate to, and her anxiety experiences I could also relate to. So I think that's why she is one of my favorite characters, because again, she's relatable. The third book is also a relatable character, and that is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. I loved the main character, Ruthie. She's one of my favorites because she is very much like an introvert, old soul type of person. She'd rather stay in and have a bubble bath, have a self-care day, like cook, like relax, read a book, that kind of thing. And like that is my soul. That is literally me. And also this book was just so sweet. Yeah, definitely those 3 books. You can tell my favorite characters are characters that I definitely connect to in some way, because all 3 of those characters like are very relatable. A book you wish you could live in. Well, obviously I would have to choose Harry Potter, because I want to go to Hogwarts. I want to live in the Harry Potter universe. I don't want to be a muggle, so obviously I would choose that book universe. But I also wanted to mention The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther, because this book is set in Martha's Vineyard, and all the descriptions that we got and like the food that is available in this book sounds amazing. Also, the family in this book is literally goals. I wish I could be a part of this family because they were everything. So definitely would love to live in this world with these characters and be a part of this family. A book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. That one is definitely going to be Normal People by Sally Rooney, because I'm not a big literary fiction girly, and also I was very iffy because that book doesn't have any punctuation or like proper quotation marks, nothing like that. So I was like really like, I don't think I'm ever gonna like this book, until my friend Ali like literally forced me to read it, and I read it and I was like, oh okay, this is actually like so good once you get used to the fact that it has like no punctuation, that is. But yeah, I actually really ended up liking that story. I really appreciated the fact that the characters were so mundane but relatable, and like very anti-hero vibes, and kind of realistic. One of the more realistic literary fiction books, and I kind of like appreciated that, to be honest, and it completely took me by surprise. A book that made you cry. Okay, there's definitely quite a lot, because I do read a lot of sad books every now and then. I think one that immediately popped into my head was Lily and the Octopus by Stephen Rowley, because that book depicted pet loss, and if there's an animal, specifically a dog or a cat, that's dying, I will be sobbing, literally bawling my eyes out, because that gets me all the time. Another one I would say, Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. The book and the movie both made me sob, because like it's so sad. The Right Person, Not Enough Time trope literally gets me in the feels. So yeah, Me Before You also made me cry. Oh, and Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins also made me cry. Right Person, Not Enough Time, again, it always gets me every time. And the last question I have is a book you wish you could read for the first time. Honestly, for this question, I would choose every single book that I've read and rated 5 stars, because obviously I would want to experience that again for the first time, like the feeling of falling in love with the book. Obviously I would go with the Harry Potter series. Like I wish I could like erase my memories completely of the Harry Potter universe and go into it for the very first time again. because like I said, I've read and watched all the movies ever since I was a little kid, and I would love to experience that again for the first time, especially like as an adult. I'd also love to read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder again for the first time, because this book had some amazing plot twists, like literally had me gasping, like full on shook the entire time throughout the trilogy. So I'd love to experience that again for the first time. X's and O's by Amy Lee. Like I said, that is one of my favorite rom-coms, and like made me feel so giddy and like excited reading this one. So I want to be experiencing that again for the very first time as well. So yeah, there's definitely quite a few books that I would love to read again for the first time. Oh, Seven Husbands. Definitely Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Obviously, you already know. So those were all the questions. I feel like I managed to get through them really quickly. I thought it would take me much longer, but it didn't. So love that. But again, I will leave all the questions down in the description if you guys want to answer them, because this tag was so much fun to do. Thank you so much, Steph, for creating this, because this was so fun. I love doing book tags. I really need to do more of them every now and then. But give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed watching. Subscribe to my channel down below. I post new videos every week, and follow me on my social medias because I post a ton on there as well. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye.